Good morning and welcome to, I don't know if this is the 9th session of the virtual summer series for NextGen. We're excited to have you here for our talk today, which I will introduce in a second, but want to give you some brief background on, especially for anyone who might be here his first time. So, I'm realizing that this is how my screen is. Give me one second. Technology makes this really fun. So a little bit about NextGen. NextGen was originally created to be a collaborative group of young professionals throughout the industry, both on the broker, carrier, reinsurance, and everything dealing with insurance, to the larger Insurance Society of Philadelphia board. Quickly, we blossomed into taking that from a collaborative to an active group of young professionals who set a whole group of meetings and programs surrounding things for and by NextGen. The great thing about it is the definition, NextGen doesn't have an age, it doesn't have a title, doesn't have an understanding of where it ends and begins. It's really just a mindset of anyone who wants to better themselves, anyone who wants to keep reaching, anyone who wants to identify and upgrade their skill set. So I would say welcome, and NextGen had created this summer series program because we used to have a whole long day intern session, and now we wanted to make sure it was open in this virtual world so that everyone could join from wherever they are. So that's kind of how this program came about. Very important to NextGen in the Insurance Society of Philadelphia scholarships, the gala. All the money that we get from the proceeds of that go to scholarships for college students, and just giving a little bit of a rundown, must be a student in risk management, insurance or actuarial science, and an accredited program, overall minimum GPA of 3.0, and exhibit some extracurricular activities. NextGen has been vital in making sure we revamp scholarships so that we can give out as much as possible. But please join our mailing list for any upcoming information about our 2023 scholarships, as we would love for you to apply. We also have professional scholarships. So you have a student scholarship and you have a professional scholarship for those who have already graduated and you are in professional programs or MBAs. We also have scholarship funds for you as well. So please go check out our website and you'll be able to get some more information. Now on to our program for today. It's weird to be sitting right next to a picture of yourself, so this will be very interesting. Today we're bringing you Tribal Knowledge, What's Cool About Insurance. So we're all going to introduce ourselves, and this is going to be a little bit of a different session from the other ones. We're okay with you opening your camera. We're okay with you. It's not something where we're going to talk at you. We want to kind of discuss this with you. So think of it less of a panel and more of a fireside chat. Julianne, myself, and Carmela are all in NextGen. I am a past chair. Julianne is a past chair, and Carmela is the current chair of NextGen. So insurance activities and the next generation of insurance professionals is near and dear to all of our hearts. And we'd love to have a discussion about, where we see that going, how that environment is going to look, some challenges that we've had, and please feel free to ask questions, whether you can do it in the chat function or you raise your hand. I'm not sure how the functionality, raise your hand in the system. Ask the question when you think of it, because I'm going to be very honest with you. If you do not ask it when you think of it, you won't be paying attention until you get to ask your question. So then you're going to miss all the great knowledge that we're giving you in between the time that you think of the question and you actually get to answer it. So we're excited to present to you Tribal Knowledge, What's Cool About Insurance. To give you a little background about myself, Denise Hunter, I'm currently an AVP in business development in the Mid-Atlantic region for QBE. I don't want to say how many years in the insurance industry, but I have held roles in claims, underwriting, and now business development. So well-rounded in the insurance industry and excited to be here. Carmela, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. Carmela Robinson. I'm currently a multinational underwriter at Westchester, which is the excess and surplus division of Chubb. I work on replacing U.S. domiciled risks with international exposures. And as Denise said, I'm currently chair of NextGen. I joined when I was just a student back in 2016, 2017, studying risk management at Temple University. So it's been a tremendous experience, and I can't wait to share, all of the advice and insights that I've gained over my short course. I still have lots to learn, but I'm excited to share what I've picked up and what I've learned over the past few years. So, yeah.
Thank you, Carmela. Julianne, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Julianne Shillington. I am the immediate past chair of NextGen. I am a vice president in public entity nonprofit at Ambridge Partners. And what I do is I'm actually an underwriter for public entity. So that includes your schools, your municipalities, religious organizations, transportation, cities, counties. And I work with excess, reinsurance, as well as primary. As Denise said, I've had many years as well in the insurance industry, so I will not share, but I have been at different companies and learned a lot of different areas, but I've always stayed in the public entity space. It's just a space and a niche that I personally enjoy. I'm looking forward to talking with everyone this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's stop sharing. Before we get started, while I know this is going to be no, are there any questions? Can everyone hear? I see that Sierra was saying she doesn't have any sound. Have we been able to fix that? Okay, I'm guessing we have. Okay, so let's just get this conversation started. I think the first question or topic we're going to kind of go over is, what is NextGen to you and why is it important in the insurance industry? Carmela or Julianne, either of you want to jump in?
Sure, I'll start. For NextGen, for me, I had started my first job at Philadelphia Insurance Companies. I went from an underwriter intern to an underwriting trainee, and I was just trying to get involved and really branch out and meet more people. I didn't really have any connections in the industry, so I saw NextGen, and there was a great way to just volunteer and just be a part of some programs. So I really just raised my hand, and for me, NextGen was just an opportunity to meet new people, colleagues, people that you're going to just meet in the industry, but also just be involved with something and take on a type of leadership role that maybe I wasn't necessarily going to have yet in my current role at the time. So just being able to challenge myself too. Overall, I've just met really great people, and so I think NextGen's opportunity, networking, professional development, it's really what you can make of it, what you put yourself into it, but I really think it's a great organization that supports the industry.
Absolutely.
So for me, I kind of mentioned it earlier, I joined as a student liaison. So I was studying risk management at Temple University, and one of our professors, Storm Wolf, was a part of the board. So she kind of presented, an opportunity for you to get involved. And as a student, you're always constantly looking for opportunities to, like Julianne said, volunteer, meet new people. So as actually myself and another individual who joined on the board as student liaisons, and we kind of just stayed on because we stayed in the Philadelphia marketplace. A lot of times, people leave Philadelphia, but in this case, we stayed and really had a fantastic time. What was great about NextGen was when you, get into your first role or job, sometimes you're kind of siloed into the business partners you work with, whether you're a broker or underwriter, whether you're in middle market or, the Fortune 1000 small business accounts or things like that. But what NextGen and the Insurance Society really does is it expands your networking opportunities beyond the silo that you work with and the people that you talk to on a day-to-day. And you get exposed to so many different things, right? Like you get exposed to folks from the reinsurance side. We even have some risk managers that are part of the board, and the programming that goes into the fact that NextGen and the Insurance Society has done is really diverse in that way. So for me, it really just expands your knowledge beyond what you do on a day-to-day and allows you to have a fun way to network with other young professionals that are kind of going through the same things you're going through. So it's just great to build that network very early on in your career.
I agree. So ISOP for me, I actually am dating myself when I say this. I was part of the original group when ISOP decided that they wanted some type of collaborative group to come together and help them with programming and kind of be an oversight committee, not an active committee. And I will tell you that the then first president was Jen Corey with her vice chair, Ed Hanna, decided that we were going to be something more. And we took a completely different direction and said, well, not only do we want to help you oversee the things that you're doing as a board ISOP, we'd like to throw some of our own things. And we determined very quickly that, you're in insurance and at your companies, if you want some hard set of skills, you need your CPCU, if you need designations, all those things were very easy to get because all you have to do is raise your hand, sign up for them. But one of the areas that was lacking was more of the softer skills, more of the networking and opportunities for the next generation of insurance professionals. And NextGen really vowed to be that and fill that void. And I could tell you that the ISOP met that with open arms, and they were excited and continue to be excited about the programs that we're throwing and the things that we're doing to bring everyone together. So it kind of brings up the next topic. When you think about it, ISOP is unique. It's over 100 years old, and it is one place in the Philadelphia marketplace where it brings everyone in the insurance industry together: broker, reinsurance, carrier, everything. There are large law offices. I want to say we have a little bit of everything in the mix. As Carmela was saying, risk managers are all in Insurance Society of Philadelphia. It is a great place where the collaborative efforts bring everyone together. And I would say it's unique because it's the only one of its kind. Los Angeles doesn't have I don't know what it would be. It wouldn't be ISOP. The Insurance Society of California is not something that has been created. So it's an interesting organization to be able to be a part of. And it kind of leads me to that next topic. What do you guys feel about beyond the 9 to 5? Because I know we're all extremely concerned about what we're doing every day at your companies, but then there's the extra side of insurance that I think sometimes people don't really understand when they first come in. So what's beyond the 9 to 5? And Carmela, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think one thing I've picked up on over the years, just with the soft skills that you develop. There's a few. I try to list a few down when I was thinking about what to kind of share with the audience. But I guess a skill that I think is something that would take you really far is good listening skills. So a lot of times, especially when you start off as a student, you're a sponge. You come in and you take the time to really listen and get to know what the role is and what you need to do, or even beyond that, when you're networking and really listening to the conversations that you're having to have a meaningful connection. I think sometimes as you go off in your career and you start building that expertise, sometimes the listening skills aren't as great, and developing that early on and making sure you're understanding what the person is actually trying to say to you, and for you guys to achieve the same goal is a really good skill to develop. And then the other skill I had, and it's something more along the lines of, self-discipline, is consistency. So you work so hard to get to your first job, right? Like you do the internships, you try to get the good grades so that you can land that first role. But I think what's important once you get into the industry is being consistent with, your word. If you're going to say something and do something, I think that's a great leadership trait to be able to go forward with it. And even being consistent with just emails in general, being responsive. So some of those soft skills to normal people may not seem like the most important thing to think about because you're thinking about building your expertise and your knowledge in a certain line of business or class of business that you're in. But those are what I see some of the great leaders within my company and I've worked with in the past really have as under their belt as skills. So taking the time to listen, being consistent, and having that self-discipline to really go forward with your word, I think are some great skills to develop and to constantly work on. Because, you know, everyone on the call here today, we probably struggle with that too. But it's something that to keep in mind, to keep working towards on a day-to-day.
Absolutely.
Yes. So what Carmela was saying, to be consistent, I'm going to take it a little bit of a different direction. But one of the things that I thought was really important in terms of beyond the 9 to 5 is being at a company. I think sometimes you finally get that role. You've graduated college, now you're in your role, but then maybe you feel like a little stuck because you're in that trainee role, and maybe you might get a little bored. You just don't feel like you're being activated as much. So I think for that type of scenario, it's just really to do what's best for you. And in a sense, and when I say that, there's a lot of things that you could do to invest in yourself that would help your company see that they want to invest more in you. And for an example, one of the things I noticed when I first started is I didn't feel very confident in saying how I felt in certain meetings, raising my hand and talking, putting my opinion out there. And one of the things that really helped me beyond the 9 to 5 was joining Toastmasters, and that's a public speaking club. And I think I highly recommend anyone out of school just to join a couple of meetings. Maybe you don't have to actually be a member, but it just shows you such a different skill set to learn. And public speaking is so important because the more confident you are in a meeting, the more respected you are, and people just really take you seriously, especially being a female in the industry, but also just any gender. It really is so important to feel confident in yourself going in there, and just because it shows, and it's attractive in a sense that people want to hear what you're saying because you have a strong tone. That was something that I just, by all means, highly recommend. But then another thing too is always continue to learn. Once you're out of college, that doesn't mean that it stops there. You're going to have to learn your new role, and being able to embrace change and know that you're going to be a continuing learning journey is just something that's part of the industry, but it's the exciting part because it doesn't really get boring then, because you're always learning something new. And one of those things that you could do is, yes, you could go and sign up for your CPCU, but another thing that I took the avenue of was going for my MBA, and I really did enjoy that. That's something, again, beyond the 9 to 5, but it's only investing in yourself, and it's just, you end up learning about yourself and what your strong skills are, what you prefer to do. And then in addition to that, if you don't want to do specific education or public speaking, there's so many networking industries within the insurance society, in the insurance industry. NextGen is just one of them, but all of these ladies on the board on this panel right now, we're all involved, I think, in maybe like 5 different organizations, because it really is what makes insurance fun. It's a social industry, and that's something that was so core to NextGen as well, is to make sure we're out there engaging with everybody to just help facilitate those relationships, because it's a relationship business. So I really could go so long on this night after beyond 9 to 5, but I just wanted to give a few examples because I'm sure we'll tap into more as we continue the conversation. But it really is not just a 9 to 5 at your desk job in the industry. There's so much more you can do to be excited and fun about the industry.
Absolutely. And I would say, just not even a month ago, we had the Insurance Society Softball League, and they had their tournament. But on this call between the 3 of us, I think when I was counting, we have CPCU, we have APIW, Association of Professional Insurance Women, we have NIA. I think I can go on. I know Toastmasters is in there. I know, but there's some others I'm missing between some other organizations. I know the institutes. Am I missing any?
The Insurance Charitable Foundation, like I said, was
IICF. So I will tell you, there is a host of things that you can get involved with, and take the time to do so, because as we've been saying, networking and getting out of just the 9 to 5 kind of gets you to your next step. And it'll kind of bring us into the next topic, because you always think what gets you in the door might not keep you there. I'll say it again and then I'll explain it. What gets you in the door might not keep you there. So when we talk about it from a student perspective, We are very excited. As you see, we're giving out scholarships for the ISOP and NextGen with regards to insurance and risk management. You get those degrees, you've made it. We're excited to welcome you into the Philadelphia marketplace. You get to your company first day and you realize you know nothing. Nothing with regards to how the practical application of your job is going to be done at that company, because every company takes that knowledge and does it differently. So I say, whether you go to Chubb or AIG or QBE, what's going to happen is you're going to sit down day one. They're going to be glad that you understand the insurance industry, and they're going to teach you the Chubb way. They're going to teach you the AIG way. They're going to teach you the QBE way. And that's where it becomes a different subset of skills of incorporating what you have learned in school and using that to the practical application of your everyday job. Because in reality, when they hire you on that potential, the potential that they see in you to be able to incorporate that knowledge with each other. So it's really a delicate balance at that time between speaking out and speaking out of turn. So they want you to ask questions. They want you to come in and have some sense of ownership of your career. Just make sure you realize that on the grand scale of everything, where you kind of fall. So make sure you ask those questions. Make sure you speak up. They do want to hear your opinion, but make sure you say that from a position of what you know and what you don't know. And when we're going into what is making insurance cool, we've been talking about beyond that 9 to 5. So just the job at hand. We started talking about best insurance trips that we've had. I know for some people that sounds like an oxymoron, best insurance trip that you ever had, but we actually came up with some pretty cool ones to share with you in talking about how insurance, while it is about insurance, it has so many other facets to it. So if Julianne, you want to start with what your favorite insurance trip will be. And then Frank, we're going to get to your question right after.
Sure, of course. So with my favorite insurance trip, this was actually at the company I started at Philadelphia Insurance Companies. When I started as an underwriter, we had an underwriting metric report. And basically, if you were just on top of policy issuance, policy binding, just quoting, making sure your turnaround, your emails were all on point, as well as just communicating and seeing agents on a regular basis, you would be in the running to be in the top 10% of underwriters. And if you were in the top 10% of underwriters for the whole United States that were in Philadelphia Insurance Companies, you get to win a trip. And I actually won the trip twice. So this was really neat because I was 24 at the time and I won my first trip and I got to go to Cancun, and you get to go with the company. And if you were married, you could bring your spouse. And then when I was 25, the following year, I won again and I got to go to Nevis. And it was just really neat because I'd never been to islands, or I just never really been out of the country at the time. So I had to get my passport, but it was awesome just to be able to work hard, play hard type of scenario. So we really got to enjoy everybody with the company, and we went on different excursions, but that was by far the really coolest thing that I think I've ever was awarded or worked towards that actually came to fruition. So it was really neat.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Carmela, how about you?
Yeah, that sounds great. I would love to be able to go to Cancun for an incentive trip. I underwrite so many of those, and I'm like, oh, that would be fantastic. But so I have two in mind. So one was when I was a student, and the reason I say this is because, and it's gonna touch a little bit on Frank's question, the opportunities are so endless, especially when you're a student, because people are willing to mentor you and coach you and teach you. So when I was in my senior year, there was kind of an email going around through Gamma Iota Sigma, and it was nationally just sourcing, would anyone be interested in being a part of AGRIP, which is the Association of Governmental Risk Insurance Pools, right? And that's right in Julianne's space with public entities. And I got to learn a lot about public entities that summer. And what they were asking for was for a student, two students, to take one of their intro to public entities courses and then to come to their conference And this was like a very small text at the bottom that if you like, just read through the email, you wouldn't even see, but you were invited to go to their CEO Institute in British Columbia in Vancouver, right? So it was an international trip, which was absolutely fantastic. And you got to learn from it, right? So myself and this gentleman, AC, from University of Texas at Dallas, who I actually met like back at our national conference in October that same year, we were both chosen. And, it was funny because when they were like talking to us, because there was an interview process to join and be a part of this trip, only 4 students nationally applied, right? Which is really kind of crazy to think about. When you're thinking about all these opportunities, like scholarships go unapplied for, right? These trips and the opportunities to go and travel to meet folks, sometimes people don't raise their hand for. So that was really fascinating because I got to meet governmental risk pool CEOs that were at the time, some of the very like touchy subjects even till this day. We're talking about, just with police brutality and things like that. So it was a very like insightful conference to attend as a student. And then you also had the opportunity to present kind of what were some of the things as a student that you were looking for when you're joining these companies. And one thing that kind of came across our topics with a lot of the companies there, or not companies, I guess it's like public entities, is that they have like student loan forgiveness programs. So it's just like, it was such an insightful trip. And that was when I was a student. And then I guess the second trip I went on was actually my previous company. The one that I really enjoyed was I went on a loss control visit. So one of the things that you don't sometimes get to see as an underwriter is the actual loss control visit of these large manufacturing facilities. And I highly encourage, if you're an underwriter or a broker, to take the chance and the opportunity to do that, because then you actually get to meet the insured. And we went to, I want to say it was either Indiana or Kentucky, and I'd never been there. I'd only heard of Indiana through Stranger Things. It really does look like, foggy and everything. But when we went there, we met with the insured, and it really taught you to underwrite by seeing the things that you would normally see in pictures, right? Like the sprinkler systems that they have, the different safety programs that they had in place. So it was really fascinating to be able to do that and to meet with the insured physically. So those are the 2 trips that for me were really memorable, and I highly encourage you to take advantage of any opportunities similar to those.
Absolutely. Well, one, I'm jealous because I really wanted, as an underwriter, I was doing environmental casualty. I was waiting for like a chocolatier manufacturing plant or something along those lines. I went on a couple and none of them were as exciting as I don't know why I imagined if I went to like a wine or cheese or food that they would just have it there for me to eat or drink, but it doesn't really happen that way. So I'll tell you briefly, and it kind of will tie into Frank's questions as well, my 2 favorite. So my first favorite was actually, we did a training class when I was at when I was at AIG, and they brought everyone to Philly. And the first thing I was thinking, I was a young underwriter. I'm like, we bring everyone to Philly, so I just get to stay here. But I realized the appreciation for the city that I didn't have, because on the second day, a lot of people are like, well, let's go explore. And I'm like, okay, they were like, okay, well, Denise, you're the guide, you're from here. I'm like, okay, what do you want to see? But I have to admit, there's a lot of places that I realize I never have seen. I just know it's there. Going to the art museum, walking up the art museum steps, taking one of the tours on one of those weird buses with the open tops, doing all of those things, going to, I think at that time, the tallest building and being able to look out. It's a lot of things that you don't realize that you haven't done in your own city because you just know it's there. So one, it was exciting for me to rediscover Philadelphia at that time. It got me a little bit more excited to work here and see what was there. And do we have any, well, I guess we're not on camera, so I can't see. Do we have any football fans in the chat? If anyone can say yes, because this will be more exciting for anybody who's a football fan. We're just going to assume people are slow to be able to get in the chat. But My best insurance trip, I was a claims adjuster with Crum and Forster. And when you're a claims adjuster, you have to go on settlement conferences, arbitration, and a lot of times they require that someone has to be there from the company in person with authority for a certain amount of money to settle something. So I had been working on this one case since I had just got there, and we set the settlement conference. It happened to be in New Orleans. And it was the same exact time that Alabama was playing LSU for the title game in New Orleans. So I had the opportunity to go there. The atmosphere is, I heard, like a mini Mardi Gras type of situation going on. You can't walk down the street without like hitting beads on the ground. Every bar was open. Everyone is joyous and having a great time. So I got to stay there for 3 days. I went to Chef Emerald's restaurant. I got beignets and coffee every morning. So it was an amazing trip that wouldn't have been possible had I not been in insurance. So I say that to say claims happen everywhere. Brokers happen claims and accounts have to be written everywhere. So a lot of times those trips, like Carmela is saying, you kind of get to go places. So if you're talking about what's cool, I can't say many people that have said they've been, around an atmosphere of a title game when two very good schools are playing each other. It was an amazing trip. And it was 100% paid by Crum and Forster. So that was amazing as well. Antoinette, I do say, I'm glad you're a football fan. Not sure what team, but that was college. We'll see about some professional sports as well. So Frank's question was, how have each of you found success in raising your hand and asking for more opportunity? Eagles. I would assume in this group, it would definitely be the Eagles. I have to admit, my husband is a New York Giants fan. Don't turn me off. I still have important things to say. So my household has to follow a different creed, but I understand that. So in talking about raising your hand and asking for more opportunity, I'll start. Being a part of ISOP is me raising my hand and asking for more opportunity. I think that I've always said, when you do your yearly review, you need to self-evaluate because it's the most important review that you'll have of the entire year. But I always say, make your intentions to your manager and to anyone else who will listen very clear as far as what you want to do, because opportunities come up. NextGen was just created and it took them several months and they're kind of chatting about it and then they kind of put out the word. But if you've already told people what you want them to hear an opportunity and think of you. And what happened in NextGen, I had just joined AIG at the time. So I heard about it from one of my friends. So then I had to go ask, hey, I heard about this NextGen opportunity. Is that something that I could be a part of? And then they were like, oh yeah, it just came in. We hadn't even had a chance to sit down and think about who to invite, but you'd be a great candidate. That's the opportunity. And that's just raising your hand, because had I not just asked, it's not that they didn't think I was ready. It's that how many people make themselves known? Because you think, hey, I'm doing my job, I'm working hard, automatically I'm going to be the next person for XYZ job. And, they obviously know that that's what I want to do. But in all reality, there's so many paths in insurance that there's no obvious path for anyone. And I'm talking to you from being a claims person that then went to underwriting, that then went to business development. Every manager I had, if you're thinking the obvious path, I would have become a senior of whatever one of those I was doing. And then I would become the manager of said unit. So if you want to do something different, or even if you want to just do that, you really need to make your intentions known, because people have no clue what you're thinking of doing. Carmela, if you want to go next.
Yeah, so I think for me, being an international student, when I was a student at Temple University, pushed you to just raise your hand for everything and anything if you can, because the job opportunities, and it's a lot more difficult, is what I'm trying to get at. I have two kind of perspectives on this. One is, for raising your hand and asking for more opportunity, never be afraid, even if you don't know exactly what, for example, when I recently joined ISOP, I had joined on as like a university relations chair. And at the time, I was still very junior at my role, but I did show that, I was committed and I was organized and could, plan events. And so, Julianne and other folks had reached out to me to see if I was willing to become vice chair and then become chair ultimately. And at the time, it was a bit intimidating because, you had just started out your career. You would be kind of like helping lead a team and, reporting to a more senior board that had a lot of, heads of office in Philadelphia. So it was a lot of, at the time, pressure. And when you're weighing out pros and cons and opportunities that you are given, don't be afraid to take that leap, even if you're not quite sure how you're going to accomplish it or get there, because that's where growth really happens, is when you don't let fear get to you and you don't let, whatever imposter syndrome you might be having to get you to that opportunity. And then the other, kind of success in raising your hand and asking for more opportunity is thinking. So, for example, at Chubb, we have business roundtables. So it's different kind of like a diversity, equity, and inclusion groups for various causes. So there's one for women, there's one for veterans, for pride, and then one for kind of like, it's called Mosaic, which is for various ethnic groups. So like there's a Black Alliance, Asian American, and Latinx. So when I first started out, I didn't really know anyone in the Philadelphia office as well. So a great way to get to know people is through those business roundtables. And at the time, I had only been with the company for 6 months, and they were looking for people to help plan like more events and things like that. So I raised my hand, even though I barely knew people, but that allowed me to network with the Philadelphia branch manager, but then also various like senior VPs that are involved in these business roundtables. So it allows you the opportunity to get to know these folks that you may not normally have exposure to, especially starting off. So to your question, I think raising your hand and asking for more opportunity, it doesn't mean that like you've already done all the work and that you need to like show and prove that you deserve that opportunity. It's raising your hand and saying, hey, like, I know I'm capable. I know that I can do this. Here's how I can help and add value. I think that really, really helps. And it shows to other folks that, you have that potential for leadership in the future. So I hope that answered your question.
Absolutely. Julianne, how about you?
Sure. So for raising your hand and asking for opportunity, I kind of want to relook at the question. So in terms of raising your hand, I think I learned this early on in my career that I was raising my hand for a lot of things, and then it's overwhelming because I had a lot on my plate. And at the time, I was very much a perfectionist too. And so in terms of just always having, if I was going to send something off and have my name on it, I wanted it perfect because I didn't know who was going to review it. So I had really good feedback from my mentor at the time. And basically, he was saying, you can do as much as you want to do, but next time you say and raise your hand for something, make sure it's something you're passionate about. And you don't have to get, because I just always loved school, like you don't have to get an A+ in everything for the business to still run. So when you're raising your hand, like it's not that you have to give a C effort, but it's more of a C still passing, it still gets the job done. So instead of just being overly perfectionist on my work myself, realize that I'm getting the job done and I can go on to the next thing and check it off. So it's one of those things, sometimes you might get stuck where you feel like you overwhelmed yourself, but it's nice to just take a step back and just see, okay, what am I most passionate about? What do I really want to work toward? And so that's kind of the asking for opportunity part. Like when you raise your hand, you're volunteering yourself, but also sometimes you're in a situation where there's not really a lot of opportunity available and you still feel kind of stuck. So that's where I feel like those organizations outside of your 9-to-5 help you yourself create the opportunity for yourself. And I think that's where something, when it came up to review periods and just self-reviews, as Denise was mentioning, you have to advocate for yourself. So maybe you're not doing something technically at your company for your company, but when you're outside of your company in the insurance industry, you are wearing their brand and your brand. So you are promoting them and everything that you do, and you're making them look good, like your company look good. So you want to make sure you're telling them, I represented us here by being at these certain happy hours or these certain speaker series. And with that, it's a benefit because now with social media, we're posting about what we're doing outside of the industry. So there's just so much more you can do outside of your 9 to 5 that creates opportunity that you create yourself. That's still so noteworthy for your reviews to show that the type of person you are, to just to say that I'm so engaged in the industry, I want to be more involved. Maybe there's not much here right now in my current role. I was talking to somebody at one of my past companies, and they were mentioning that they just feel like everybody's working on a project, but they don't have a project to work on. So I feel like for those scenarios, I think that's something that where join a Toastmasters or join some type of employee resource group just to get involved. So you feel like you have something, but it doesn't necessarily, unfortunately, sometimes there's not enough projects to go around for everyone. So as Carmela was saying, it doesn't mean that like you feel like you deserve everyone and you have to, you shouldn't get upset if you don't get the project, but there's always other ways around investing in yourself and still making you one of those employees to retain and also just to really think of for the next one type of thing. So I think that I think it's always successful to just show that you're willing to go beyond your specific 9 to 5 job and in the company and outside the company. And I think if you can't ask for the opportunity, creating the opportunity is always available too. So I think that was a really great question. Thanks, Frank.
Absolutely. And Frank, you know what? I realized that the one side we didn't give is everyone asking for opportunity. That's great. Also know when we're talking about that self-evaluation, when you ask for opportunity, if someone seems hesitant to give it to you, you need to ask why. It may be some general functions in your everyday 9 to 5 that you're not meeting. So they may think, hey, we don't want to give him more, because if you're constantly complaining about, oh my God, I have no time to do what's on my desk, and you seem very stressed, people are also going to say, well, hey, we don't want to overload. So that's why you have to make sure you level set. Make sure before you're asking for these things that you have your own desk in check, that you know what's going on with the things that are at your desk, that if there's something you needed help with, you ask, because you don't want to be the person who's 4 weeks back on a project, but then going to someone and saying, hey, I want more opportunity. And they're like, well, you haven't really done the opportunity we've given you. So that's the opposite side of making sure things are done in a proper manner. And I think it was a study, God, a few years back by McKinsey. And this will go directly to your question as well, Frank, that there was a job posting and there were 10 skill sets that needed to be had that were listed for this job. A man and a woman look at it, and physiologically, they were saying if a woman looked at the 10, unless they had at least a solid 8 of those skills, they were not going to apply for the job because they didn't feel as though they could do it. But then when a man would look at the same job, if he had 4 to 6 of them, he was applying hands down, no problem. So that doesn't mean that any of us are specifically a man or woman in the gender roles of that, but you have to think of which one of those are you. Are you the person who's going to say, hey, as long as I have a few, I can work out the rest? Are you the one who, like Julianne was saying before, a perfectionist, are like, oh my God, I want to make sure I have all of them right. So my advice is you find the common ground. And when you do those self-evaluations and you speak to your direct manager who is directly in charge of, no matter what you do, that person's going to have a little bit of a hand in making sure they sign off on you going to that next level. If you're that person who feels as though you need all of the attributes, then you go to your manager and you talk about that. Hey, I really like this job, but I think I don't have these. You might have those skills and you don't even realize it. And if you're that person who only has that 4 to 6 and you're like, hey, I want to move forward, they may give you, hey, we think you should develop these certain skill sets that you don't have. So then the next question is, hey, do we have any programs or something that I can do to help me develop those skills? Once again, great question, because now they see you're more ingrained in that company and more ingrained in your own success. So Frank, I hope we answered your question. Please type us a yes or a no if you need some more one way or the other. But I see that we're already at 10:50. We're supposed to be at 10:45. So I'm going to go into the last question. Thank you, Frank. Just wanted to make sure, because if there was any other thing, we wanted to make sure we got to that. The last question is really the topic of the entire session, is what's cool about insurance. So what I would say is, Carmela and Julianne, if you can give this a thought, what should we tell everyone on the call today is cool about insurance? And Carmela, if you want to go first.
Yeah, I think what I love and what I think is very fascinating about the insurance industry is that it truly is the backbone of the global economy. So it's not just in the US. You can get exposed to so many opportunities, and it really is sky's the limit in terms of the career path that you want to take. I also think what's absolutely fantastic about the insurance industry is that if you look at a lot of the headlines that you see in the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, those are directly correlated with our, companies and what we do on a day-to-day. And there is something for everyone, whether you're an outgoing person who wants to be on the sales track, whether you're a data analyst that wants to, review and analyze data, if you're a numbers guy, there's something out there for everyone. And I think taking the time and finding the right career path for you is something that anyone can do at any point in their career. So the insurance industry is one of those spaces where you can come in with not that many skills, honestly, to begin with, and you can really develop yourself and become an expert in a space. And I also want to say that the insurance industry is one of those recession-proof kind of careers. So as we're, looking at the global macroeconomics right now, and we're thinking about what we want to do the next 10, 20, 30 years, there's definitely a path for you to take here in the industry. So, yeah.
That's great. Julianne, how about you?
Sure. I think the industry is cool because it's always evolving. I think when I was first in college, they would say, oh, insurance is boring, but really it just follows so much and when say follows, it has to react. The industry reacts to everything happening currently in the world and globally. It's one of those things that it's not going to just be, oh, here's your policy. There's just so many different coverages that come into play and things that are happening, and being that insurance fulfills you at a loss. It's just one of those, it's kind of it's a good feeling to be a part of an industry like that, but then knowing that it's reactive, it's being proactive, and also it's fun. I always will advocate for the social part. I love that it's a relationship industry because I just love being able to engage with people. And even in this virtual environment, it's still so helpful to see everybody's faces and just chat. So I think there's so much, piggyback off of Carmela, anyone can be in the insurance industry, any major. There's so much more we could talk about in that regard as well. And I feel free to reach out to myself and Carmela and Denise if you have any further questions, but it really is a cool industry. And I think it's only going to get cooler once you guys join it.
So shameless plug, please definitely stay in the industry. Well, I guess there's a few things. So I agree, the possibilities are endless. And you're talking to someone who has had 3 completely different career paths in insurance. And there are still many more that if I wanted to, I can explore. On those self-evaluations that I talk about are so vital. That's what I had to do for myself. I had to understand every year what I liked about my job, what I didn't like about my job, and then what I could do to do more of what I liked and less of what I didn't. And that kind of brought me to the path of figuring out where my place in insurance was going to be. And right now in business development, I love it. I get to, come down and help out with specific deals. And then I get to go back to the 500-foot view of the entire, relationship between myself and another broker. So the possibilities are endless. I also realize it's saving lives. And I learned this a lot more in claims when I got to individually talk to claimants, and money from their insurance policies would be the difference between success and failure for them. And we're not talking about, okay, success, you either won or lost a game. We're talking about life and death situations. We're talking about people being able to feed their families and understanding excuse me, what's going on. I'd spoken to a group of Temple students right after Kobe Bryant's crash. And I remember it was a very solemn conversation because all the news had just come out. It was like that first day after, and explaining how insurance is going to play a part in hopefully that situation not happening again. How there's going to be new insurance regulations and new contracts written and new things that the insurance industry will be at the forefront of really saving lives and hoping that the same tragedy is not going to happen again, or at least not the same exact situation, because there's going to be ways and regulations that we're going to help bring about it. And I would say the coolest thing about the insurance industry to me is it's fulfilling. I have a lot of passions. I want to like what I do, because if you realize you're at your job for most of your day, for most of your week, for most of the year. So I need to like what I do, and I need to like the people that I do it with. It's extremely important to me. And we have the opportunity that when I'm not fulfilled in one way, or there's a passion, I'm extremely impassioned about apprentice programs and intern programs. So what does insurance do? It gives me the opportunity to work with HR. So yes, I do business development, but I also help recruit. That's something that in all industries, sometimes they want you to just stay in your lane. Great thing about insurance is all the lanes kind of overlap. So you can kind of create what's good for you and what works for you. So the best thing is it fulfills me, and I'm excited to come to insurance, as corny as it sounds, every day, because it's going to be something new and something exciting for me to tackle. And then when my specific job gets on my nerves, then I go to one of my organizations and I help throw an event, or I help do something, and it shows me a whole different aspect of how insurance changes lives. So I want to thank you so much to Julianne and Carmela for joining us today. We were excited to have them speak, and I think that their insight has been invaluable to getting different perspectives, because in this world, we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion. You're going to hear the buzzwords, but our thought, especially in NextGen, is you have diversity. Everybody thinks just ethnicity, but ethnicity, gender, but also diversity of thought is extremely important. So no matter what three people you put together, even if it's all women, even if it's all men, even if they're all Black or all white, their experiences are going to have a different spin and a different thought on everything that we discuss. So I'm glad that the Insurance Society and NextGen has taken an active role in making sure that diversity, equity, and inclusion are at the forefront of everything that we do. Please, we have our last session is going to be next week. And for some reason, because my screen is stuck on just the three of our faces, I can't tell you what it is, but I know that it will be good. Carmela, do you happen to know what that session is called?
Yes, we are actually having coach, professional planning coach come and present. So it's an external guest, and it'll be on goal planning and professional development. So helping a lot of the folks here that are going back to school set intentional goals for, their upcoming school year.
Yeah, and I would say to add, think of if you are a professional that's already in the industry, do a reset, join that, and then re-goal set for yourself. Do that evaluation over the next week, and then see how you can fulfill yours. So while a lot of things here are very student heavy, there's a lot of things coming out of being a professional in this industry, speaking up and getting what you want. So we are excited once again to have you. ISOP and NextGen have some wonderful events coming up. There is iDay, there is the Gala, and there's a super secret event that the three of us are going to be working on as well that you'll hear more about soon. So please come often. If you have any questions, please connect with us, because we would love to continue these conversations, and we'd love for you to get involved. ISOP and NextGen's doors are always open. We always need volunteers, and it's a great organization to be a part of. So without further ado, thank you for joining. Thank you for your time, and we hope to see you next week.
Thank you, everyone.